Look here, man, don't look at me like that. I didn't shoot the sheriff.
Shanae.
Oh my goodness. If it isn't Little Miss Attitude.
But Martin, unfortunately, you know, show business at a certain point in his life got the best of him. And when that happens, you see it happening. And there's nothing you can do.
Why did the popular TV show Martin suddenly end? What really happened behind the scenes that caused such a big change? Fans loved Martin Lawrence's comedy and the fun moments between the characters. So why couldn't the show go on?
Jackie Chan!
Was it about disagreements, personal issues, or something else? Let's explore the real story of what led to the end of this hit series.
What's up? What's up?
Fans loved the show because it was funny and relatable. The show stars Martin Lawrence, a comedian who plays Martin Payne, a radio host living in Detroit. Martin is loud, full of energy, and always gets into hilarious situations with his friends and girlfriend. The show ran for 5 seasons, from 1992 to 1997, and became super popular. People loved it because it showed everyday life in a funny and relatable way. Martin has a group of close friends who are all very different, which makes their interactions even funnier. His girlfriend Gina, played by Tisha Campbell, is smart and supportive, but doesn't put up with Martin's nonsense. Their arguments and sweet moments made the show feel real. One of the funniest parts of Martin is when Martin plays other characters. He dresses up and acts as different people, like Shanae, a loud and sassy neighbor.
Shanae.
Oh my goodness. If it isn't Little Miss Attitude.
Or Jerome, a flashy old school guy.
Ollie, look here, man, don't look at me like that. I didn't shoot the sheriff.
These characters always stole the show. Martin wasn't just about laughs. It also talked about relationships, friendship, and chasing dreams. It had a little drama sometimes, but it always found its way back to comedy. It seemed like the show could go on forever.
Cause it's gonna haunt your every wake.
But then, it suddenly ended, leaving fans surprised and wondering why. The truth is, there were serious problems behind the scenes that made it impossible to keep going.
I seen the picture with you two together. Was that the first time y'all seen each other in years?
Absolutely. And like literally 20-something years, literally.
It turns out, Martin Lawrence had problems with some of his male co-stars on the show Martin. One of them was Carl Payne, who played Cole.
Ooh. Yeah. Hey, Tommy, man, why don't you pass brother one of them tater skins?
Carl opened up about their issues in an interview. At first, things were fine between them, but as time went on, Martin started treating Carl poorly. Carl didn't share all the details, but he made it clear that it was tough to work with Martin at times. Carl thought Martin might have been dealing with personal problems during that time, which could explain his behavior. Even though it wasn't easy, Carl stayed professional. He only stood up for himself when he felt disrespected or threatened. Carl said working on the show was like being in a family. Families argue sometimes, but they also have good times together. He enjoyed many moments on the set, but pointed out that the issues always came from Martin's side, not his. Carl made it clear that he didn't have a problem with Martin personally. The tension lasted for the whole show, but years later, before filming Martin the Reunion, the two finally talked about their issues. They were able to move on and put the past behind them. Fans loved the chemistry of the cast, but now we know things weren't always smooth behind the scenes. Still, it's good to know Carl and Martin made peace after all those years. But Carl wasn't the only co-star who had problems with Martin. Garret Morris, who played Stan Winters, also had a tough time. Garret was a fan favorite during the early seasons, but he stopped being a regular after the second season. Fans were left wondering why. The truth about his departure is both surprising and sad, showing that there were deeper issues behind the laughter on the show.
I said, Mama used to say, take your time, young.
Now in the 5th season of Martin, Tisha Campbell, who played Gina, wasn't in many scenes with Martin Lawrence, who played Martin. Even in the final episode, Gina and Martin only talked over the phone, shown in a split screen. They weren't even in the same room. Fans were confused. Why was Gina missing from so many episodes? The truth came out after the show ended in May 1997. Tisha had actually left the show months before the last episodes were filmed. She didn't just walk away quietly. She filed a lawsuit against Martin Lawrence, accusing him of and abuse. Tisha claimed the problems didn't just start in the 5th season. They had been going on for years. According to her, Martin started making her uncomfortable in the 1st season by constantly asking her out on dates. She always said no, but the behavior didn't stop.
I love you.
By the 2nd season, Tisha said Martin's behavior became more extreme. He was having angry outbursts on set, yelling at crew members, and even threatening to fire people. Things got even worse in the 3rd season. Tisha claimed Martin started humiliating her on set and causing so much stress that she ended up in the hospital.
But Martin, unfortunately, you know, show business at a certain point in his life got the best of him. And when that happens, you see it happening. And there's nothing you can do.
By the 5th season, Tisha said she couldn't take it anymore. She claimed Martin was crossing personal boundaries during filming. For example, she said he would touch her inappropriately and even use his tongue during kiss scenes without her permission. Tisha had reportedly asked the writers not to include intimate scenes between Gina and Martin, but those scenes still made it into the scripts. The breaking point came when Martin allegedly had a huge outburst on set that scared everyone. After that incident, Tisha told the producers she was done. She left the show and refused to come back.
And you know, the network has a lot to do with that as well. You know, they take care of the star, and then everybody else is a piece of shit. That's just how it goes down. And you know, you embrace being a piece of shit.
After Tisha filed her lawsuit in 1997, fans were shocked. The lawsuit claimed that Martin's behavior had been escalating for years. While Martin denied the allegations, the tension between the two stars was undeniable. Years later, in a 2019 interview, Reginald Ballard, who played Brewman on the show, shared his thoughts. He said the situation between Martin and Tisha had gotten so bad that they couldn't even be at the Universal Studios lot at the same time. While Ballard didn't know all the details, he admitted the whole thing was strange and hard to understand. The lawsuit didn't go to trial. Instead, Tisha and Martin reached a settlement, and she returned briefly to film the final episodes. However, the damage was already done. The show ended in 1997, and the allegations left an impact on its legacy.
I love you.
Years later, Martin Lawrence spoke about the situation in an interview. He said he loved Tisha and claimed the lawsuit was blown out of proportion. In a surprising turn, Tisha and Martin reunited in 2020 for a Martin reunion special. In an interview, Campbell talked about how they worked hard to forgive each other. "This reunion is about celebrating what we did and how we've grown," she said. Lawrence also said he has nothing but love for Campbell. Fans have mixed feelings about the situation. Some blame Lawrence for the problems on set. Others think both Lawrence and Campbell made mistakes. One fan commented online saying, "They were young and made bad choices. It's a shame the show ended like that. Martin was groundbreaking and should have lasted 10 seasons, not 5. When Campbell shared a nostalgic video on Instagram, tagging her former co-stars, fans reacted strongly. Some blamed her for the show's cancellation, with comments like, "You're the reason the show ended." Others appreciated the memory and thanked her for sharing. One fan wrote, "So much history. Love it."
Let's heal. Let's keep in touch. Let's not let all this time go by.
While Martin Lawrence, on the other hand, had a different opinion. He opened up about why his popular Fox series ended. When asked, he said, "It was just time to end." He hinted at issues during that time but didn't go into details. The interviewer brought up Tisha Campbell's lawsuit, and Lawrence admitted it was part of the conversation. However, he made it clear that his problems with Campbell weren't why the show ended. Lawrence explained that it was his decision to leave. "People think it got canceled, but that's not true. I chose to end it," he said. "It was a career choice, not drama, that closed the show." Also behind the scenes, Martin was struggling with a lot of personal problems. The pressure of fame was tough for him, and he started using marijuana to cope. Unfortunately, it only made things worse. In May 1996, things got really bad. Martin was found by police in the middle of a busy street, yelling and swearing while carrying a gun. He later said, "I was high that day. I don't know how I got into the street, but running across it while high doesn't mix. The cops had every right to stop me. Thankfully, no one got hurt, and the situation was peacefully resolved." But that wasn't the only problem Martin had with the law. Later in 1996, he was caught trying to take a gun on a plane in his carry-on bag. Then, in 1997, he was put on probation for hitting someone at a nightclub. At the same time, his personal life was falling apart. His ex-wife accused him of saying hurtful things to her during their divorce. Even though his career was going well, Martin was facing many challenges in his personal life. While all this was going on, things were also getting tough on the set of Martin. By the time they reached season 5, it was clear the show was coming to an end. In one of the last episodes, the focus shifted away from Martin's character and onto Pam, played by Tichina Arnold. The episode called "Goin' for Mine" showed Pam losing her job but getting a new one at a record label. This episode was part of an attempt to see if Pam could have her own show. The network Fox thought that Pam's strong and confident personality could carry a show on its own. Fans loved her, and Tichina Arnold later said in an interview, "It was a great opportunity, but the spin-off never happened." Despite the disappointment, Tichina said everything turned out how it was meant to. Martin Lawrence's struggles behind the scenes were tough, but he eventually got through them. His career continued, and he found ways to move forward after facing some very difficult times.
Use people, Martin? That's not coming from you.
Garret Morris is a talented actor with a long career. Before joining Martin in 1992, he had already built a solid reputation in Hollywood. However, Garret was battling personal struggles, including addiction, even while working on the show. Things took a tragic turn toward the end of the second season. One day, as Garret was walking to his parked car in Los Angeles, he was attacked by 2 men. Since Garret is a first-degree black belt, he fought back and managed to kick one of the attackers. Unfortunately, this made the man angry, and he pulled out a gun. Garret was shot in the chest and arm. He was rushed to the hospital where he fell into a coma.
And he had a gun like that. And I said, "Excuse me," and he shoots me and goes in there, messes up my intestines. I had to have a colostomy for like 8 months.
Garret had to go through several surgeries to survive. During his recovery, he got the script for the show and noticed that his character was written out.
That's when the person who was producing Martin decided to fire me while I was actually in the hospital itself.
The storyline had Stan selling the radio station and leaving town. Garret filmed a scene from his hospital bed to explain his character's exit. He later found out that this was the show's way of firing him. Garret said he asked if he was being let go, and the answer was yes. Even after leaving the hospital, Garret faced more health problems. One of his gunshot wounds got infected, and he had to go through more surgeries. He wore a colostomy bag for 8 months and spent a year in a wheelchair. It was a tough time, and Garret fell into a deep depression. However, he eventually decided to focus on what made him happy and tried to move on. Garret did return for one episode in season 3, where his character opened a restaurant with Martin. After that, Stan was never seen again. Garret later spoke about his firing in an interview, saying he believed Martin Lawrence, who was a co-executive producer of the show, was the one responsible for letting him go. Garret even said Martin spread stories about visiting him in the hospital and crying by his bedside, which Garret claims never happened. Back in the 90s, hitting 100 episodes was a big deal for TV shows. It meant the show was successful and could make money for a long time through reruns. When Seinfeld hit 100 episodes in 1995, NBC threw a huge party for the cast and crew. But when Fox's show Martin reached 100 episodes in 1996, the celebration was a lot less exciting. Instead of a big party, the cast got gift baskets. This didn't sit well with Martin Lawrence, the star and creator of the show. Tichina Arnold, who played Pam on the show, later shared the story. She said that when Martin Lawrence saw the gift baskets, he got really upset. He walked off the set and went to talk to Fox. After that, the cast got better gifts. Arnold found it funny later, but it was clear they all felt like Fox didn't appreciate their hard work. While the 100th episode celebration was disappointing, the bigger issue for fans was how Martin ended. The show, loved by many, was suddenly canceled after 5 seasons. This happened because of personal problems between Martin Lawrence and Tisha Campbell, who played his girlfriend Gina. The tension between them made it impossible to continue the show. Fans were left heartbroken by the sudden end. Asides all this, the show. Martin was also full of fun moments and talented actors, but there are some facts about the cast that many people don't know. Tisha Campbell, who played Gina, and Tichina Arnold, who played Pam, were actually best friends long before they ever worked on the show together. They met when they were just 12 years old, while trying out for acting roles in New York City. They clicked right away and became close friends. Instead of seeing each other as competition, they always supported one another. Tisha once shared on a talk show, "We always rooted for one another, even when we were up for the same roles." Tichina said their bond was special, calling it a natural connection and believing that God brought us together. When they were 16, Tisha and Tichina both got parts in the musical Little Shop of Horrors. Working together on that project only made their friendship stronger. By the time Martin started in 1992, Tisha and Tichina were already best friends and even roommates. It's no wonder they both landed roles on the show. Their friendship behind the scenes added a lot to the chemistry we saw on screen. Their bond helped make Martin a memorable show for fans, and it's just one of the many untold truths about the cast.
Because it's gonna haunt your every wake.
The show may have had a script, but Martin Lawrence didn't always stick to it. Tichina Arnold shared in an interview with BuzzFeed that Martin often ignored the script and made up his own lines during filming. She said, "The first time he went off script, we knew that's how it was going to be for the rest of the show." His improvisation made the show funnier and more unique. Martin's unscripted moments were so funny that it was hard for the other cast members to stay in character. They would try not to laugh, but most of the time, they couldn't hold it in. The cast even turned it into a game to see who would laugh first. Thomas McCall Ford, who played Tommy, often lost the challenge because Martin's antics were just too hilarious. With well over 100 episodes in the long run of Martin, the show produced plenty of memorable moments and satisfying stories. When asked by BuzzFeed what his all-time favorite episode was, Martin Lawrence replied, "My favorite was probably the episode I wrote called Guard Your Grill. It's the episode with boxer Tommy Hearns, and my head was swollen like a grapefruit because I got beaten up so bad. That probably was my best episode because I understand it so much." What the comedian meant by understanding the premise was that he literally trained as a boxer when he was a teen. To stay off the dangerous streets of his neighborhood, Lawrence honed his technique at the Sugar Ray Leonard Boxing Center and got so good at the craft that he won an AAU championship at 15 years old. The major strength of the young boxer was his movement, but it wasn't enough to dodge a strike that gave him a nasty black eye. Once Lawrence's mom saw the damage, his boxing career was over.
Jackie Chan!
Did you know Jackie Chan made a funny cameo on the show, Martin, back in 1996? If you're scratching your head, wondering why an international action star would pop up in a sitcom, you're not alone. Jackie played himself as the unexpected boyfriend of Shanae, Martin Lawrence's wild and over-the-top character. It was a funny random moment in TV history, but there was a bigger story behind it. Around the same time, Martin Lawrence was offered a role in Rush Hour. Yep, the buddy cop comedy that made Chris Tucker a household name almost starred Lawrence instead. When talking to Jimmy Fallon, Martin joked that he turned it down because they didn't have enough money for me. Chris Tucker later confirmed in an interview that the studio was considering other actors like Lawrence and Wesley Snipes before giving him the role. But imagine if Martin Lawrence had taken the part. It would have been a completely different movie. Some people wonder if Jackie Chan's appearance on Martin was meant to get Martin Lawrence excited about working together. If that was the case, it didn't work, and Jackie ended up doing the cameo for nothing. Thankfully, it was still a funny and memorable episode.
By the way, that show had like some of the funniest catchphrases.
It did.
That we now have part of our vernacular.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
still say, talk to the hand because the face don't want to hear it.
Right. Nobody remembers that it actually came from us.
Martin was full of some of its catchphrases which became famous. These lines weren't just funny, they stuck with people and became part of everyday conversation, especially among young fans. Even today, some of them are still used, showing how much of an impact the show had on pop culture. One of the most famous catchphrases is "talk to the hand." It was a funny way of saying, "I don't want to hear it." Then there's "you go, girl," which became a way to cheer someone on. People used it to show support and excitement. Another favorite was "get to steppin'." Martin would say this when he wanted someone to leave, and fans loved repeating it. Even years later, Martin Lawrence said people still shout his show's catchphrases at him. On The Tonight Show, he shared that the phrases he hears the most are "what's up" and "you go, boy." "What's up" was so popular, it even showed up in Budweiser commercials and the movie Scary Movie. It's clear that these lines stuck with people and became part of everyday talk. The way Martin's catchphrases stuck around proves how much fun and impact the show had. Whether it's "talk to the hand" or "what's up," these famous lines will always remind fans of the laughs Martin brought to TV.
It's the D-O-double-G, 'cause that be me.
The show wasn't just about Martin's catchphrases. It also gave rising stars in comedy and music a chance to shine. For example, rapper Snoop Dogg made his first ever TV appearance on Martin. Even though Snoop admitted he was a little nervous, he nailed his role by just being himself. Martin Lawrence created a space where guest stars didn't have to act differently or pretend. They could relax and have fun. Snoop later said in an interview that he appreciated how Martin gave artists a chance to show their real personalities. Another star who got a boost from Martin was Tracy Morgan. Before he became a household name on Saturday Night Live, Morgan appeared on Martin as Hustle Man, a funny character known for selling random stuff. Martin Lawrence saw Tracy's potential and gave him a shot. It paid off, as Tracy was a natural on set, making everyone laugh with his quick thinking and great delivery. In a heartfelt interview, Tracy Morgan spoke about how much the opportunity meant to him. He said, "Martin let me eat at his table." He explained that Martin didn't put him on the show just because they were friends. He did it because he believed Tracy was funny. That chance changed Tracy's life and career forever, and he remains grateful to Martin for giving him a start.